Folks, I am in the middle of rehearsing for a play which opens in 3 weeks. And so this week, I entered a week where my schedule and my days no longer became my own. Now in 3 weeks, this is going to end, we're going to open, and life is going to go back to normal. But I wanted to say that right up front. That is what has affected my ability to post. So while the intention is there, my days have had to be managed assertively to accommodate a project that is understandably at this stage of the game taking a lot of energy. So that is what is going on. The last video I posted was specifically about Venus entering Libra at the beginning of the week. Typically, not always, but typically I do weekly overviews. And this week's overview, I said I would divide into 2 parts because Venus entered Libra at the top of the week and then made a series of aspects that echoed the new moon solar eclipse in Virgo on September the 21st. It echoed the aspects, it's the same set of aspects that Venus made, that the sun and moon made at the time of our last solar eclipse. And that took enough time and was enough to digest in the Libra part of the chart. Also, whatever was going on in the Libra part of the chart demanded a certain amount of attention because we're headed to the new moon in Libra on Tuesday morning, and I will post a video on that, but I want to get this video out first. And for all intents and purposes, if you're curious about that new moon, you are welcome to look at the last video I posted because a lot of what is relevant, quite frankly, 75% of what you need to know about the new moon in Libra, I've already stated. In the full moon in Aries video, which is the full moon corresponding to the new moon in Libra, it's just that right now the full moons are happening 2 weeks before the new moon, not 2 weeks after the new moon. And the last weekly overview I did about Venus entering Libra and other Libra transits, both those videos will give you 75% of what it is that needs to be said about the new moon in Libra. So if you're feeling like, I want to know Abhi's take of where this new moon in Libra fits in, what's going on with those 2 videos, I will point you to. But there will be a separate new moon in Libra video. But the last video I posted was the first half of a weekly overview related to Venus in Libra, the sun in Libra, and the aspects that we're making. The second half of the weekly overview, and the week is almost done at this point in time, was about Mars's aspects through Scorpio, Mars and Mercury. Most importantly, tomorrow, Mercury and Mars conjunct in Scorpio. But on their way to conjuncting, earlier this week, on the 15th, Mars trined the North Node in Scorpio, and Mercury trined the North Node yesterday. Mercury and Mars conjunct on the 19th. Then Mercury moves further ahead from Mars and trines Saturn in Pisces on October the 25th, and on October the 29th, Mars trines Saturn. So Mars and Mercury getting ready to conjunct tomorrow, making trines to 2 important trines to the North Node earlier this week, and then over the next week and a half to Saturn, with both the North Node and Saturn being in Pisces. In addition, in the mix of all this, while Jupiter and Saturn will not trine exactly this year, they are getting into place to trine. So you can think about Mars and Mercury in Mars and Mercury in Scorpio, Saturn and the North Node in Pisces, Jupiter in Cancer, making, in the case of Mars, Mercury, Saturn, and Jupiter, a pretty convincing trine, a clear trine, and in the case of the North Node, kind of a looser trine. And I'm saying looser only between Jupiter and the North Node, because what we do know is that Mars and Mercury made an exact trine to the North Node 2 days ago. Now, I did a reading for someone yesterday, and we were looking at that Mars-Mercury conjunction. The Mars-Mercury conjunction, or Mars-Mercury conjunctions, first and foremost, happen every year. So it's not something we don't deal with every year. And it kind of has this Knight of Swords quality, understandably. Mercury is the planet of communication, and Mars is the planet of, I'm going to use the word energy, ambition, desire, the pursuit of our goals, the expression of our ambition, and also our anger, because with Mars, the setting of boundaries also enters the picture. If you think about Venus and Mars as being yin and yang, but part of the same whole, Venus involves what we desire and what we want to protect, or Venus protects what we value. And Mars goes out there archetypally to hunt and gather, pursue goals, and to protect what is of value. So the male energy, the female energy that we all possess and that expresses itself in very specific ways in each of us has to do with, in the case of Venus and our feminine energy, how we attract, how we go with the flow, how we encourage flow and abundance, how we maintain harmony when it comes to our abundance and our finances and our relationships, what we value, and caring for and nurturing what we value. And Mars, the male energy, is about hunting and gathering, pursuing goals, taking action to sustain and grow and secure the feminine energy, what we value. So there's the hunting, gathering, going out and farming and getting and doing things and making things happen and exerting energy. It's not, if Venus is attracting, Mars is, I don't want to use the word chasing, but Mars is creating, making things happen, taking action. And at the same time, protecting by setting boundaries. So the planet of communication and the planet of following what we desire and what we want, and setting boundaries, meet up tomorrow in the Scorpio part of the chart. Just after they have trined the North Node in Pisces, which has been indicating what it is that we need to try and move towards, the direction we need to move towards in the Pisces part of the chart, in the house occupied by Pisces. But more intriguingly to me, Mars and Mercury are moving towards trining Saturn. There's two things I really want to say in this video. Focus on being constructive. What is nice about this Mars-Mercury conjunction is that it is trining two powerful allies. And I understand that we may not think of Saturn as an ally, but Saturn is very much an ally. It also helps us clean up our karma, which is not pleasant and not fun. But we all have to clean up our karma by processing lessons, by dealing with consequences, ideally by taking responsible and accountable action and not putting ourselves in a place where there are consequences, by being thoughtful, by being careful. And that is a very important word, I find, because there can be a lot of, we all go through moments where we say, I don't care, I don't care, I don't care about this, I don't care about that, I don't care about what you think. But Saturn would say that not caring is not an option if you want to be successful. Now, that doesn't mean that you have to nurture every single person and every single issue that comes along your path. But it does mean that we can all be careful. And again, that does not mean that we move away from our own priorities, and if someone is in the middle of a crisis and we don't know them well and it's really not our problem, that we are just going to sacrifice our own well-being completely and spend the next 3 days looking after them. That's not what I mean about being careful. Being thoughtful, being mindful of consequence, not being rash. Saturn does not, you can be right, but Saturn will not reward reactive or careless behavior. Now, a Mars-Mercury conjunction in the Scorpio part of the chart can be an expression of anger from yourself or from someone else. It can be a call to it can be a call to take action. Where did I put that Knight of Swords card? I put it back where I found it, because that's the kind of city boy I am. It can be an expression, it can be urgent action, it can be communication on something urgently, it can be something that really needs to be done, it can be all of a sudden something has been on the sleepier side, and it can be people getting in touch, it can be communicating about a project, it can be, but it can also be anger and boundary setting on your part, on somebody else's part. It can so there can be an explosiveness to a Mars-Mercury conjunction. Let's say Mars and Mercury are conjuncting in your 4th house of home, land, real estate. Something could break down and needs to be communicated about, or something breaks down, and I mean in terms of things that need to be repaired. Very often this can happen with Mars in the 4th, and either you're taking action or you're processing what needs to be done about it. With Mars and Mercury conjuncting, there could be a certain amount of thought and energy devoted to working from home and realizing certain ambitions by taking action at home that is going to support you when it comes to accountable behavior and pursuing where your future lies in the Pisces part of your chart. So with Pisces in the 8th house, there could be something financial that you're pursuing, something that needs to be done related to inheritances or joint finances, or a way of earning money that involves partnerships, but it requires you to take some action at home, and you take that action and it supports that activity. And with Jupiter in your 12th, it also supports the work that Jupiter wants you to do behind the scenes till the end of June of next year. Now, I am being relatively high level here. But what I'm trying to press upon you is that with 3 trines to the North Node, to Saturn, and then Saturn to Jupiter, and Jupiter to Mars and Mercury, there's a lot of potential Don't let the Mars-Mercury conjunction lead to, let the conversations and the communications be a portal or a gateway to a new way of being that is fundamentally constructive. Even if the situation is messy, and even if some element of the response to a situation could be more mercurial and martial, that's where that word comes from, could be more militaristic, could be more angry, but will not be as effective. So if we have to be in communication, if we have to take action, if a certain type of energy is gaining expression, let it be a portal towards sensibly trying to create workability in something. especially if it helps you stabilize the Pisces part of the chart with whatever crisis has been brewing since 2012 and may have come to a peak in 2014, 15, but especially 16, 17. If it allows you to lean into taking some action that supports what you are figuring out, the North Node eclipses in Pisces are encouraging you to move towards. And how Jupiter's transit through the house occupied by Cancer in your chart is ending a 12-13 year cycle and starting a 12-13 year cycle. And with cycles, it's always helpful to think about, when was Jupiter going through the sign of Cancer last, 12-13 years ago? And you can always Google those dates. And what happened during that time that is similar in energy? But the Mars-Mercury conjunction, part of the reason why I'm harping on this, dear members and dear viewers, is because outside of the Pisces and the Virgo parts of the chart being the most activated for the rest of the year, the other part of the chart and the other sign that is very activated into December is the Scorpio part of the chart. Now, we are dealing with the Scorpio part of the chart with relatively benign, normal, annual, every 2-year transits. Mars goes over Scorpio and every other part of the chart every couple of years. So Mars is going through Scorpio from September 22nd to November the 4th. The next planet to enter Scorpio, Mercury, from October 6th to the 29th. The Sun comes into Scorpio in 5 days' time, and he's going to be a huge help. And I'm going to explain this in a second. Then, Venus enters Scorpio on the 6th. All right, things start to become a little bit more helpful. But then Mercury goes retrograde in Sag on November the 9th, but backs into Scorpio on the day the Scorpio new moon occurs on November the 19th. So the Scorpio new moon then opens up yet another 4-week period, a 4-week month of Scorpio, where action needs to be taken to bring the Scorpio part of the chart into alignment with what you value. But a retrograde Mercury comes into Scorpio, goes direct on the 29th, 10 days after it enters Scorpio, and then only leaves Scorpio to enter Sagittarius on December the 11th. So all the way to December 19th, when the Sagittarius new moon occurs, Scorpio season continues, and the last of the personal planets to actually leave Scorpio is Mercury on December the 11th. There is some stuff going down in the Scorpio part of the chart. And yes, for some of you, it could even be worth thinking about. When I did the video about the Libra part of the chart earlier this week, it was very much about what is current energy heading into the new moon on Tuesday in Libra. With the Scorpio part of the chart, it's also current energy insofar as wherever Mars is, a lot of our energy goes. And something has been brewing in the Scorpio part of the chart ever since Mars came into it, since September 22nd. Mars has been stirring some stuff up, but when Mars is the first of the planets to come in and is followed by the personal planets so quickly, very often it can feel like an underground undercurrent, particularly if we're dealing with a house that is occupied by someone else and some other people. So if Mars is in a house that has to do with your business partners or your employers, or Mars is in a house that has to do with your siblings or your mother or your father or your children, then when Mars is the first of the planets to enter, it can feel a little bit like, I am on the receiving end of someone's competitiveness and aggression, or someone is taking some sort of action, or someone is needling me, or pursuing something that they want with regard to me, or setting boundaries towards me. Sometimes this can feel very overt, particularly if Mars is not close to the personal planets, which he is right now. But sometimes it feels like, oh, I can feel this coming. I can hear it. Here's this that has shown up, and here's that has shown up, and here's this that has shown up, and here's this that has shown up. Because with Mars, typically we assume, and we're right to assume, that the energy is often overt, transparent, but it doesn't have to be. Remember that Mars is the ruler of Aries, which is direct and overt and assertive. But Mars is also the ruler of Scorpio, which it expresses its boundary setting and its anger in a much more backstabby way, in a much more emotionally calculating way. Aries is not emotionally calculating. Aries is just emotional and direct. And there's no backstabbing. It's, you know, whatever's coming from an Aries placement is in your face. And Mars is transiting Scorpio. So if you have been on the receiving end of some assertiveness, some issue, or you've been pursuing things, it's very likely or possible that things are in the realm of either kind of passive aggression that is no less aggressive or hurtful, but has a passivity to it. Or it could be that there's an awareness of something brewing that's going to need attention. Mercury coming into Scorpio from October the 23rd, Mercury coming into Scorpio since October the 6th increases the communication element of things. It may not provide resolution yet. And Mercury and Mars conjuncting on the 19th means that some of this building energy finds expression. And that expression can be as simple as somebody opening the door to more overt communication over something that has a certain charge to it or certain energy to it. That's all. The phone rings. A text is sent. I'm ready to talk. With the energy being in Scorpio, it could be more like, hey, we haven't talked in a long time. How are you doing? It's all good. We should get coffee sometime. Let's connect. Let's have a breakfast meeting. And all the while, uh-oh. The beautiful thing is that the sun enters Scorpio on the 23rd, and that part of the chart becomes illuminated, and that will help us connect more directly to source energy and start to examine what we're seeing in all the nooks and crannies, and will start to make us think about what is important to us, what is the universe trying to tell us, what is spirit trying to tell us. Do we need to assert our boundaries as well? If we're dealing with some kind of Mars conflict, is the Mars-Mercury conjunction occurring because we are the ones who are opening the door rather than somebody else? If Mars and Mercury are conjuncting in your first house, in your second house, in your third house, you could be the one who is opening the door towards a certain communication. Where the subtext is, I've had enough of this. But because it's expressing itself from the Scorpio part of the chart, it's cleverer than that. It is more emotionally, it has a greater emotional calculation to it. All of us are likely waiting for Venus to enter the picture on November the 6th because she will introduce greater workability around things. But then the million-dollar question is, what is the retrograde Mercury going to bring in the Scorpio part of the chart from November the 19th to December the 11th. And from the 19th to the 29th, 30th, 1st of December, 2nd of December to some extent, what is going to be revealed? It's a little bit, we're dealing with an energy that requires revelation and clarity. And that revelation, things have been a little bit passive. I said there were two things I wanted to convey with this video. One of the things I wanted to convey was this, what I just did. When these transits are happening and how the narrative is building in the Scorpio part of the chart, and to press upon you that issues related to the Scorpio and the Sagittarius part of the chart may be connected. So for example, you have Scorpio in the 4th and Sagittarius in the 5th. There could be some sort of connection between homeland, real estate, or maybe mother or motherland and children. If it's between the Scorpio-Sag connection is between the 7th and the 8th houses. It could be with a marriage partner or a business partner. If it's 8th and 9th, there could be something about how you're focusing on future goals while attending to certain matters related to existing partnerships. So there could be some sort of Mercury going retrograde from Sag to Scorpio and then direct from Scorpio to Sag, while Mars is in Sag and Venus is going to be heading to Sag and the Sun is heading to Sag. You know, we're not done with, and the November 19th new moon means that we will be taking steps. This is what it's all leading to. What it's all leading to is that from November the 19th to December the 19th, but particularly as we head past December 2nd, 3rd, from December 2nd, 3rd to December the 19th is when we actually have an opportunity to be able to get to a place of resolution with this building, mounting Scorpio energy, where this Mars-Mercury conjunction tomorrow plays a part, but it's part of a bigger narrative. So the first thing I wanted to convey is all these transits. The second thing I want to convey, and this is very, very important to me with this video, because it's a caution, is to let the energy of the Mars-Mercury conjunction blowing open a door towards communication be a portal towards moving towards something that is actually constructive. And it may be that you only get to that place by December, but open the door to it by being... Here's what I want us all to experiment with. How do I assert and set my boundaries so that my boundaries come from a place of rationality and truth and what is truly acceptable to me or not? Not just from an emotional place, but from actually a rational place. This is not going to work for me because, and I can articulate it. Actually, I don't even like that phrase, this is not going to work for you, because it automatically... Don't throw out the baby with the bathwater just yet. You will need to set your boundaries on something, but you've got to figure out how you can do it in such a way that it actually can create a strong and stable future for you, a more productive future for you, a more constructive future for you, a future that minimizes energy leaks in the Pisces part of the chart. And I'm feeling compelled out of the states of completion because I gave the example of Mars-Mercury conjunction in the 4th house, and I was talking about real estate and things breaking down. It could even be something to do with the mother in that case. Irrespective, the Mars-Mercury conjunction can create an energy that can lead to an outburst, an explosion of forcefulness. And let's say that someone is reaching out to you and wants you to do something or act on something in a hurry, but they're also using it to open a portal or open a door or tap into your Saturnian energy. Mars-Saturn trines can be very powerful opportunities to put your energy towards pursuing a goal and fulfilling ambitions and moving towards them in a way that can really be quite powerful and quite constructive. I don't think that we can bring harmony into a situation by saying yes when we mean no and no when we mean yes, or by completely backing away, or by betraying ourselves and not having boundaries in place. But at the same time, with some of the energy that's going on here, I think that setting boundaries or behaving in a careless way can create or keep a crisis going. I don't think that's what this invitation is about. What I like is that the Mars-Mercury conjunction happens tomorrow. And then there's all this other energy that is coming in that is going to throw things up in the air, where it's going to be a series of revelations and clarity. And we really don't get to the other side of this, or to the ability to build something lasting till December. But I like that Mars and Mercury conjunct. And then after that conjunction, they move towards trining Saturn. That makes me feel like, as you've been heading to tomorrow, all of this week, if certain things feel like they've been building up and there's pressure and there's assertiveness and assertion, and it feels like we're about to get bruised by being in and getting embroiled in some sort of broil or battle, there's a potential that as we get on the other side of Sunday, hopefully, that we can tap into a much more pragmatic side that engages in conversation where you ignore what is immature or problematic in someone else in order to achieve a kind of stability that is actually going to be constructive for both of you. That does not mean that you are not going to set boundaries where you need to, but it invites us all to set boundaries in a way through responsible communication, so that we can really feel like we have protected what we value and treated ourselves with appropriate respect, and not acted out of fear. But we've also done our best to do it in such a way that has involved extending a hand and saying, here's what I think is going to work for me. How do you feel about that? What is going to work for you? How do you feel about that? All right, well, let's now put some of this energy behind us and let's give it a shot. Or let's create a newer world that connects constructive energy between the Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces part of the chart, but most of all contributes to stabilizing the Pisces part of the chart. This video is also my heads up that the Scorpio part of the chart and the Sag part of the chart, but especially the Scorpio part of the chart, is going to be quite charged. But I'm going to say this again. I'm going to use a word that gives us all the heebie-jeebies on some level, I think, although we know we all need it. There is the potential to heal and stabilize something with this astrology. A Mars-Mercury conjunction on its own listen, Mars and Mercury conjunct tomorrow, and at least in the United States, it's this weekend when the No Kings protests are happening. And so far, at least, I don't know what tomorrow will bring. From everything that I understand, they have been relatively peaceful and constructive. And I hope that remains. But it's almost a kind of a perfect analogy, a perfect example of expression, action, boundaries, goals towards responsible action and greater stability, while contributing to and taking from whatever it is that Jupiter is trying to end and begin a 12-13 year cycle on the Cancer part of the chart. That's more relevant to each of us personally. I don't want to keep beating a dead horse now. I feel like I've given you food for thought. While Mars has been in Scorpio since September 22nd, and since October the 6th, the communication element on this may have increased. You may have felt like either you are trying to express something, unrest. There has been unrest. That unrest could be directed towards you. The tone could be scorpionic, behind the scenes, manipulative, emotionally astute, emotionally astute. And during this week, things may be coming to a head from a communication. Someone may have already expressed, someone may already have reached out, somebody may already have expressed something, somebody may have already said that feels like, oh, I'm sitting on a powder keg. But the astrology with the trines to the North Node and to Saturn and to Jupiter are suggesting a gateway and a portal. Remember that Saturn too is a planet that is trying to get us to be the best and highest potential of ourselves. And Saturn is never, ever about passivity. It's about being sensible. It is about being mature. It is about being effective in communication. It is about being also emotionally astute to the point of dryness. Your highest self, your wisest self, your most strategic self. You can express yourself and express your boundaries where certain things are clear with regard to what's going to work and what's not going to work, while being open to saying, I'm open to building a bridge, but, you know, this is where I'm coming from. This is what's, you know, there is a portal to trying to stabilize the situation. So I'm going to just throw that out there. You may not get to a full expression of that stabilization till December. We may all not get to it till then. We are November the 9th is when Mercury goes retrograde, is still a little bit away. It's still forward movement all the way to November 5th, 6th, 7th. But then at that time, we're going to deal with some, you know, November will be a time for us all to readjust again and take stock of what is real and factor that into our plans as we move forward after Mercury goes direct. Okay, I will leave it at this, dear ones. Yeah, subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already. When you subscribe, there's a bell icon next to the subscribe button. Click the wiggly bell on top. You'll be notified when I do new videos. Feel free to leave a comment or like the video. That's a way to contribute to the channel for free. You can also contribute to the channel monetarily by using the thanks button underneath this video or making a donation. Information on that is in the description box below. If you're interested in a personal reading, you can reach out to me in the email that's in the description box below. I can give you the options and the different offerings, and apparently you can use a hype button to hype videos. So all of that is open and available to you. I'm going to leave it at this. I am going to be juggling while I'm rehearsing. Anyway, I don't even want to go there. I'm just delighted that I've been able to do this video. I think it has some useful and helpful content, so I can't wait to get it out. Okay, take care.